Welcome back to the show. I am so excited about our guest today. Claire Valdez is running for U.S. Congress in New York. The primary is just about a month away. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. Claire, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your story's been fantastic. It's been meteoric. Just to get some of the main endorsements out of the way, you've got I call him America's mayor now, Zohran Mamdani's endorsement. You've got DSA. You've got all the progressive organizations and PACs behind you. For those who are not familiar with your superhero origin story, share with us, what motivated you to run? Why would you subject yourself to the torture of running for Congress? And how are you feeling about your chances to win the primary?
The short version is just that bosses and billionaires have workers down right now. What I experienced through my union as a member of UAW Local 2110 at Columbia University is that when we come together and organize, we can beat them. My union was my introduction to collective power, to collective bargaining. I was a bargaining committee member as a unit chair there, so I got to stand shoulder to shoulder with my coworkers during really dire moments. I ran for the state assembly here in New York to bring worker power to Albany, and that's the exact same fight we have before us right now, with oligarchs and huge corporations keeping workers down. And at a moment when the federal administration is launching illegal wars and continuing to uphold a genocide in Gaza, it's organizing that's going to get us out of this mess. And that's exactly what I intend to do when I go to Congress.
The UAW is one of the few organizations during the Biden administration that openly criticized him for his failures on Gaza and on Palestine. So it's exciting for, I think our viewers, our listeners should know that you're well embedded with the UAW organization. What do you want to see happen differently under the new Congress once you're elected? Because I think it's a pretty strong argument to make that while Trump and his fascist regime are in fact making a genocide even worse, this did begin under a Democratic administration. You had complete failures and complicity from Hakeem Jeffries, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Antony Blinken. What do you want to see differently in the future of this party?
I want to see Democrats lead on this issue. I've been organizing for not just a ceasefire, but obviously an arms embargo and the end of aid to Israel for a while now. When I and other democratic socialists and unions and organizations stepped out and said, this is a genocide. We cannot be complicit in it. We have to pull every lever we can in this moment. We were criticized by Democrats who stayed on the sidelines, stayed silent, called us all kinds of names. This issue has now become something that is, animated the Democratic base now for a minute. People are pissed and they're outraged. They're so angry that our tax dollars have been going to this genocide. And now that, Israel has launched a new campaign in Lebanon, we have allowed this to happen by not standing up against it when it was happening in Gaza. Democrats need to be leading on this issue. We can't sit on the sidelines anymore. This is exactly why people stayed home in the 2024 election. It's what gave rise to Trump 2.0. And we have to be standing up against the military industrial complex. We need to be drawing down its power and ending the illegal wars that Democrats and Republicans have both led.
There's such a deep connection between the complicity in this genocide and the lack of funding for basic things we need here at home. I mean, Zohran Mamdani just was quoting Tupac that we got money for a war, but we can't feed the poor. People don't realize 1 in 9 American children are food insecure. 1 in 6 Americans are food insecure. When we talk about cutting off aid to Israel, where are you on cutting off military aid to other countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and these other non-democratic regimes that are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. We spend so many of our tax dollars go directly toward funding war and oppression, toward displacement. And I think what is so important in this moment is that we are recognizing the United States' role in empire and colonialism and a long history of environmental degradation that has displaced so many working people around the world. That is money, those are resources that we could be spending right here at home. Instead of bombing schools and hospitals, we could be building them. We could be shoring up our healthcare system. We could be winning things like Medicare for all. We could be providing the good life for working class people right here in NY-7. And instead, we're making a political choice that upholding the military industrial complex and continuing to line the pockets of Raytheon and Palantir and other military contractors is more important than feeding our children, providing healthcare and good education, and the things that working people deserve.
And I think it's one of the most frustrating things for me where the response is, well, don't you support our troops? Well, one, this has nothing to do with supporting our troops. And two, all this massive bloated Pentagon budget that fails every audit, all it does is, as you said, Claire, it goes to buy a Raytheon executive another yacht or another private jet or another mansion. It doesn't actually, I have friends in the military right now who are food insecure, who are on food stamps because of how expensive things are and how the money isn't going to them. Speaking of kind of the breakdown of our democratic structures, we're seeing the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And I think it's two things are true. We've seen, this right-wing MAGA fascist regime over the last 50 years, 60 years actually, work aggressively to continue to gut the Voting Rights Act. We saw it with Shelby versus Holder. We're seeing it with the Citizens United. We're seeing it with this Calais decision with Louisiana. What do you want to see happen from the Democratic Party leadership to fight back? Because at the end of the day, we know who Republicans are. They don't actually care about a functioning democratic republic. They just want absolute power by any means necessary. What do you want to see from the Democratic Party to be a true opposition party? And what kind of leadership are you looking to provide once you're elected?
We need real organizers in Congress right now. The reason that I talk a lot about the labor movement and the reason I'm very proud to be, a former rank and file member of UAW is because we know that unions build democracy. When union density was at its highest, democratic participation was at its highest.
Mm-hmm.
It was possible to win a living wage and dignity on the job. And workers took that strength and that power that they built in the workplace out into the rest of their lives. And that is so essentially what is needed right now. Because when we don't exercise on our rights, when we don't have the muscle to use them, this is what happens. The right takes them away. And the fact is, the right has been organizing in boardrooms and all over this country for years now with this explicit aim to gut our basic rights, our basic voting rights, to attack our trans siblings, to attack the labor movement. And Democrats have to be standing up right now. So often the reason they aren't is because they share, our Democratic establishment,
same donors,
politicians, they share the same donors.
Yeah.
And that's such a big problem. It's why I'm very proud that this campaign is not taking corporate PAC money, APAC money, real estate money, and that it's a small dollar donation campaign, because this is what we have to live our values in these campaigns, because that's how we have to govern in the future.
Yeah, and I tell folks who are watching, I never bring on a candidate on here and ask you to support them without donating myself. So after this interview, you can bet I will go to your website and donate as well, because we have to. We can't just complain about Citizens United and then be like, somebody else figure it out. And I get it. Things are tight, but guess what? $1 goes a long way. And folks need to understand that we get 10,000 people donating $1 a month. Suddenly, that's 2 new organizers that you can hire to get out there. Let's talk about some of the more domestic policies. I know on international policy, you've been explicitly clear that we need to uphold international human rights. Then you have a war criminal, there's a genocide, stop this Iranian war. I think that to me is kind of the basis, and any Democrat who isn't willing to do that is kind of failing to meet the moment, and they're being complicit in the rise of fascism. Domestically, we're seeing an economic gutting of the working class. And I don't just mean the fact that gas prices are astronomical and groceries are high. We have the worst wealth and income inequality since, in fact, before the Great Depression. This is not sustainable right now. What kind of economic policies do you want to see enacted in this next term, or hopefully in 28 if we have an election and you get a Democratic president? Where do you want to see? What's your basis to ensure that we pass as soon as possible?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you said it really well. We're in a new Gilded Age. There's profound wealth inequality. We have people who are living on the streets while, the richest people in the world, richest men in the world, are trying to go to the moon, are buying their fifth yacht. It's disgusting. And this is only made possible, in my opinion, by decades and decades of gutting the labor movement, of attacking worker organizing across this country. And so I think for me, the most important thing right now is that we have to build the labor movement and get as many working people as possible into unions. I'm really excited about the PRO Act. Obviously, I think it would be transformative legislation that would make it much easier for workers to organize their workplaces. But I think we need to go further. We need to go further than just the PRO Act. Our labor policy includes a federal fund for organizing. So the federal government isn't just sitting on the sidelines and hoping for the best. We're actually proactively being part of the organizing that has to happen in this country for workers to win better wages and working conditions and take on the corporate power that has brought us to exactly this place. We have to win Medicare for all, because no one should have to face medical debt in this country. I think everyone watching the stream has had the experience of foregoing a doctor's appointment or a dentist's appointment, or knowing someone in their life who has faced medical debt in the richest country the history has ever known. It's a catastrophe that is a daily fact of people's lives. And so those are some of the basic things that I think would help level the playing field and decrease income inequality and help workers take back control over our lives.
Yeah.
I think this is the thing that I hear so often when I'm talking to people is no one has time. We're working 2, 3 jobs, just eking out a living. It's unsustainable, it's cruel, and workers deserve the good life.
It's beyond cruel. And if you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Claire Valdez, running for U.S. Congress in New York District 7. I'm reading these studies and reports on how suicide rates are increasing because of the economic struggle that people are going through. I have a friend of mine who just shared that 2 of her family members died by suicide because their note said that they just couldn't take the economic stress anymore. Studies show that for every dollar increase in a living wage that's afforded to people, there's a 1% decrease in suicide rates. So, I mean, this is not just a philosophical discussion. This economic torture is literally killing our communities, and it is unsustainable. When we talk about building a new system and infrastructure, there have to be people, I'm sure, in Congress that you look to and say, hey, that person is doing it right. Who are some of the people that inspire you, that you model your policies after, that you can see yourself working with to build this better system that's more attuned to the needs of working people going forward?
Yeah, I think there are a few people in Congress that are really leading in this moment, and I always shout out, Rashid Tlaib. I think her leadership on the issue of Palestine has been obviously incredibly strong for obvious reasons, but in incredibly difficult moments to be on the side of the Palestinian people. She always is. Again, of course she is. And, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my neighbor in Queens and the Bronx, has incredible leadership in Congress and in the district. She has an organizing machine that is going all the time, no matter whether it's a campaign season or not. And that's exactly what our leaders need to be doing in this moment, is not just, asking for a vote every 2, 3, 4 years. It's really organizing, making sure that we know what's happening on the ground, and standing with people who, like you said, are going through it. This is not some abstract idea that the affordability crisis is hurting people. It is actually materially hurting people, and it's because of corporate greed. It's because the insurance companies want to nickel and dime us. It's because the real estate industry wants to nickel and dime us. And it's literally killing people. And so having Congress members and leaders who are on the ground, who care, who are listening, who are organizing is so important right now. And putting themselves on the line in really politically difficult moments. That's the kind of leadership we need, and bravery we need too. When I see people like Chris Van Hollen go to El Salvador, that makes me feel like we can be brave together.
Yes.
And that's the kind of example that we need to be setting, putting ourselves on the line and showing that there are things that we can do besides passing legislation that help people, that protect each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not asking for permission. It's taking the lead and getting it done because it needs to get done. One thing that infuriates me is when I see someone like Hakeem Jeffries tweet, Donald Trump is reckless and we should hold him accountable. Well, who's we? Like, you're the guy who is the minority leader and wants to be a Speaker of the House. You hold him accountable. Stop telling us and go and actually do it. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Claire Valdez, running for Congress in New York's 7th Congressional District. We're down to basically the last month of your election. And I want to be sensitive because we only have a few minutes with you before you have to go to your next meeting. But how's the campaign going? What do you need? What can folks do to help you get across the finish line and have the most meaningful impact?
The campaign's going well. New York 7, for those who don't know, it's northern Brooklyn and western Queens. These are our neighborhoods that are beautiful. They're full of immigrants and artists and working families, and we're being displaced at a rampant clip because we have built a beautiful and vibrant community and hope to live there for the long term. And this is exactly what this campaign is about, is taking on those corporate interests and making sure that people can sustain the good life in the communities we call home. So right now we are knocking doors all over the district. We've knocked on, I think, 90,000 doors at this point, and we have many, many more to go. So if you are in New York, come door knock with us, come talk to your neighbors about the things that matter, about a vision for international solidarity and the end of the genocide and the life that we all deserve here in New York. If you're not in New York, you can phone bank and you can donate to help us get through the finish line. This race it's winnable. And like you said, we have a great coalition behind us. Mayor Mamdani, Senator Bernie Sanders, DSA, UAW. Jewish Voice for Peace.
Right.
So many organizations are throwing down for this race, and we can win if people pitch in and help us out in the last month, month and some
Yeah.
change before primary day. But early voting starts June 13th, so it's crunch time, and we're going to run through the tape.
How are you managing? I've run for office before. It is extraordinarily stressful, and I don't just mean like mentally, but physically, emotionally, financially. It's draining. I don't think people realize that most of us who are running, especially on these people-powered campaigns on these values, we're not independently wealthy. We don't have a trust fund. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know enough about you to know if you do or not, but I doubt it. How are you managing? How is your family supporting you? Just kind of, I want folks to understand that you're not a robot. And that there's a deeper human connection here.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate that question. I think it's true. It's hard. It is hard to be, a working person who's trying to run for office because it is very expensive. The pressure is very high. If you are a woman or a woman of color, I think it's especially difficult. I'm really grateful that I have, friends, family that support and care for me, and that I'm not doing it alone either. Like I said, we're in a movement of people who are doing this. And I think something that felt really important to me when I was considering whether I was going to run or not is that I want to see people who aren't career politicians run for office. I want to see union members run for office. I want to see women of color run for office. And what better way to do that than to model that myself and to bring as many people along in that as possible. So it is not easy, but it is made so much easier by having so many friends and comrades in the movement who are doing it with me. So grateful to have the 1,400 volunteers who have already signed up. Amazing. And if you're in the 17,000 people who have donated, you can join in.
I always love the argument that, well, this person doesn't have any experience in Congress, so we should go with someone who's the people with experiences have gotten us into the situation we're in. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I think it's more than enough time now to say, hey, let's try something different than the status quo that's gotten us into this mess in the first place. I'm going to ask you in a minute to share the website and where people can go and donate and volunteer. But we're down to our last 90 seconds. Can you just talk, from if someone who's never heard of your campaign before and they're in your district, or they're just looking to whether they should donate to you or not, what are the main contrasts between you and your opponent, and what is your main pitch of why you are the right candidate? I think you are, but I want them to hear from you directly.
Yeah, like I said, this race is about taking on corporate interests and the fight for worker power. I'm a union member, former union organizer, come from the rank and file, got to sit with my coworkers during really difficult times. I know how to organize across all kinds of political differences. And in a neighborhood, in a district that's been shaped by real estate speculation and private equity displacing working people from our homes, I'm the only candidate in this race who's not taking a dime from real estate. And I think that's so important, again, that our campaigns are reflecting the values of what we're hoping to build in Congress and for the future. So I hope to earn folks' support, and we're making the case right now at the doors.
Yeah, it's absolutely diabolical that in New York City, of all places, somebody could run for office and take real estate money in the most. It's just tell me how just detached. It's not even toned up. It's actually cruel. It's like, I don't give a damn about you. I just want more for me. And I think the fact that you are the only one not taking real estate money, that alone should be a green flag and a selling point that, yes, you will get my vote. Please share where folks can go and donate to sign up. And you said June 13th is the start of early voting, but talk about the primary election date, all that good stuff.
Yeah, early voting starts June 13th through the 21st. Primary day is June 23rd. We are knocking doors all over the place, so come join us. And you can get involved at clairevaldezforcongress.com.
And I will make the request now that if and when you do win this primary, we'd love to have you back on the show to talk about your first 100 days once you get elected. Because this is a very blue seat. The primary is the election. Whoever wins this is going to win the election. And we wish you all the best of luck, and you're making the luck into reality with your hard work. So thank you for joining us, and let's go out and win this thing.
Thank you so much. Solidarity forever.